So I'm going to go through some pages here just to show you kind of a start to finish thing. Even though these pages are actually, they've been finished for 2 years. This is going to be page 2 of Encoding Bushido. I'm going to start with thumbnails, show you the inks, pencils, pretty much the entire process. But, before, like I said in the previous video, that my most important, application in making comics was Google Docs. Well, this is the original script for that page. And you can see that I've made some notes for myself. And this isn't, a direct translation at all. It's something I treat really organically. And you can tell that this doesn't look like a script. I mean, it's written just as pure prose. And for me, that's a lot easier than trying to format everything panel to panel, script to script. I just don't work like that. I don't see a page immediately as panels, or I don't write a page immediately as panels. That's something that's really necessary when you're working on a team. Of course, you've got a writer, and if they want to write a certain way, like I've heard Alan Moore writes so much stuff and material for his, the person he's working for, that it's almost harder, you know, than working from just a simple piece of prose. But this is how I approach it, since I've already done a bunch of my reference. So when I start with a script and get, descriptions, time of day, details, objects, where are we, basically the who, what, where, when, why, and how. I had already started, before even writing that script, I had been researching artificial intelligence and diagrams, and this is actually a decision tree, from an artificial intelligence website that I saw. And these are all very, very loose translations of that original English artificial intelligence document. It's embedded into the research I did is embedded into this Google Doc. Like, that's the original diagram. And like I said, I loosely translated some of these ideas. These are just letters. But I actually found some translations of these battalion, platoon, section, and put those into my diagram. But this really isn't an exaggeration at all when I say this document in particular was so important to the research, collating everything, using Google Docs as instant. You have these tools on the side, that you can reference, jump around the document easily. When you're using the headings, like for instance, this is a heading 2, normal text, and these are all just basic style sheets that you're used to from word processors. But they make it really easy to manage a document and the work you're doing. So jumping into the GIMP again, I translated this moment of these robots basically being delivered back home by their master. Now I changed one of these, this panel out instead for what became, at least in this pencil phase. Now I'm going to turn the borders on, but they weren't there originally. I chose to eliminate that just to make this 3 panels, basically one really pronounced aerial panel, almost a telephoto, and then just 2 close-ups. And then to go on to the inks, this is very, my previous book was a noir book, so I was very used to inking just straight, black and white. There are no, this is done in grayscale, but I'm not taking advantage of grayscale values at all. So onto the color page. See, I already had that up at one point. Now I save these. You can see there in the file. I'll show you those in a second. But right up here, you can see that the page 2, this is version 2 of the page. And version 2 colors, I like to completely save a new, copy and paste a new, entirely new document to start coloring. So when I'm coloring a page, I'm going to take the inks page, leave it intact, and just put a little C after the version number. Now, if I version this up, and I usually don't touch the inks and when I'm coloring. If I need to make an inking change, chances are I'll go back to this document, version it up to say this was version 2. I'll go to a version 3, and then start, version 3 with those new inks with a new version number, 3C. Just to keep things, working in visual effects, you go through, dozens of versions of a shot or dozens of versions of elements of a shot. So, to keep all of those kind of in line with one another, all the V3 elements are in this folder, or all the version 4s or whatever. And if you have a team, working like this, oh, that's version 2. So, you're all on the quote unquote same page. But, even this document is filled with, background and research and color research and photography that I pre-selected when doing this that I thought would be useful. For instance, this particular layer is a sunset. Just a really hugely blown up section of a sunset that I liked from years ago. And all it does really is form this sort of haze, sort of a sunset haze across everything. Now, I would take that into Inkscape, another open source program. This is GIMP, by the way, if I didn't already mention that. Inkscape and OpenView, this as well. My image viewer is another open source program. But in Inkscape, all of this stuff starts to come together. The original diagram here was, designed in Inkscape and has its own layers and its own elements, which can be copy and pasted. But you can take a look at that. That Inkscape provides a pretty generous tool set for lettering. I started using different typefaces instead of the standard sort of comics typefaces, just to indicate that the robots spoke in sort of this machine language as opposed to the lead characters, which I'm using a more standard comics typeface. And from Inkscape, everything gets exported. And unfortunately, Inkscape, as of yet, only exports PNGs, which are fine. They're basically 32-bit color files. If they can include alphas, or in transparency, which is kind of interesting. And from here, I'd be going into Scribus. But I'm going to save Scribus for another recording because it's actually a very special program to me. It's enabled quite a bit of distribution, and it enables quite a bit. I'll say that. So, until next time, thanks for watching.